Our first hot topic today is about this issue that was raised in the newspapers that we just read, birth control pills. Is it the right thing to do at this time? I mean, Beecee read the story, which I thought was interesting, that the government is considering that we should find measures to control our population. Well, people like Nima have said, oh, come on, follow more. You know, and she said it repeatedly over the years that, listen, you can't be counting kids for me. I mean, it's not my children. How to remarry culture and what is economically expedient for a country to do.
Many people have already given birth. The gentleman in question has given birth to 28, so we have to find a way to make sure he does not give birth to the remaining 2 that he's looking towards. But as a country, we need to tell ourselves the truth. We have very limited resources, and we need to make sure that every child gets a good education, good housing, good health care, and the number of people we have in our country, the more we have, the less we'll be able to cater for them. We always, whenever we talk about contraception, family planning, we focus on the women. But I think if we really are serious about stopping just multiple births, we have to talk to the men. We have to start talking about male contraception. We have to start talking about male family planning. We're talking about vasectomy. We're talking about maybe like a policy. If you have more than 5 children, you cannot run for office. If you have more than 3 children, you cannot run for office. If you have more than, you will not get it. So maybe if we put it that way, because just to tell women, don't use contraception, we know of women who know how important this is. Even for their health reasons, they don't want to have more kids. But they have husbands that are saying, if I hear, do you understand? So if you put it now on the man, and I'm saying that I'm highlighting the fact that a man can decide for a woman in Nigeria whether she should have more or less, is because the way the dynamics of marriage works for majority of marriages in Nigeria is that the man is the breadwinner, the man determines, you know, everything.
I'm not in support of birthing children anyhow, but in the situation where a person caters for their children from birth till death on their own, do you then want to regulate what you don't control? Our public schools, governments, you know, they just have schools, they don't have the numbers, they don't know what they're doing with them. If I'm a rich person, I'm an MK or Abiola and I have 4 wives, of course I'm going to have children, and I have provided for those children till I die, till when they get to adulthood. So how do you want to regulate what you don't control, what you don't work with, what does not really bother you when you're sitting on the decision table? If you make policies today, just like Miriam said, the policy makers are the ones who break the rules. They'll say, no, 2 children only, but they have 5 children, and then you start to see exceptions and exceptions and exceptions.
How do we take this issue of controlling our population seriously? Not from the part of government, we, the people, ourselves.
Yes. So I think we, first of all, have to take responsibility. So while I'll come back to the government a bit, because they have a larger role to play, if you know that your capacities can give you so number of children, have that number of children and ensure that you take care of them. That's where the responsibility comes in. But if you look at it in the global scale, most of these top economies like China, Russia, Japan, India, Brazil, they have huge populations that they have been able to use for their own benefit. So they've found ways to use the strength that they have for their economy. Imagine if the 70% of youths they were talking about, 40% were billionaires in this country. Imagine the sort of economy that we will be building. But because we have not been able to use the strength that we have, we see it as a problem. And also find a way, because most of these people use that as a form of entertainment. You know, when you don't have money, that thing is just will be hungering you all the time, because that's the only way. Yeah, for the big men, you can afford to go to clubs, you can afford to take trips, you can afford to do any form of entertainment that you can. But for a very poor man who is just that's the only entertainment. That's the only entertainment. You're kidding me. If you just catch somebody, you can just have it a few minutes and you're good.
There's this saying, just like Dr. Moyo said in Africa, in my own place, they say, oh, you're Arebu. When a person has a secondary infertility, you know, and the person is yearning for a child. When that child comes, most of the time in my place in Auchi, they'll say, oh, you're able to give that child. We need children to remain, to keep the lineage. So it's beyond economics. That's why government must reflect the society. You must reflect the way people think. Our government have failed over the years to turn these numbers that our fathers... in the old days when our ancestors, let me even go far because it's far down, started to have plenty children. In my own family, if you hear, they were kidnapping children. And so people started to make sure that this lineage would not be wiped out by the things that were existing at the time. And then later, it became the trend of farming. You needed your own children to map your territories.
Yeah.
When your child grows up, you send your child to one side of the farm to start a family, and you know to keep. So we're growing, we're evolving, picking laws and picking policies from Europe to come and reflect Africa. And that's the clash that we have today. If we had worked with the numbers that we had and the way we were having those numbers, the strength of our region at the time, the farming strength, probably by now we'll have those complex problems that Dr. Professor Magalu talks about.